So my 7x7 is a little more open. At least I'm hoping to get more discussion. What I'm showing is what I typically call user testing. And so I kind of named my 7x7 Adventures in User Testing. Because I'm curious how other people do this. Right? This is essentially a small executable that we built to be callable from the command line to display a TDMS file, certain channels out of a TDMS file that we could either pass those channels on the command line or we could pass a JSON that has those channels in it and allows us to display it in certain ways with colors and different line things. And really what the executable does is not terribly important, but we also decided, hey, let's build what I typically call user testing on top of this to say this application, when interacted by a user, does these things correctly, right? And we have a way to run this test, an automatic set of mouse movements and keyboard commands and things like that to test that and be able to call back and forth and say, okay, I just made a new build. I want to run those tests again and make sure it works. There's a lot of frameworks to do this within like the web environments that we see that I've seen, but there's not a whole lot that I've seen that can do this with like a desktop application, right? That are at least not, that are not like custom made, which is what we did here. We custom made this. We used a tool called AutoIt. More than happy to talk about it after the 7x7. But what I wanted to try to spend the rest of my time, which is what, 4-ish minutes now, something like that, is like, what do other people do this with? Do other people do this at all, right? Or do we all just get by with unit testing or maybe regression testing or someone sitting down running this manually? Let's start with a show of hands. If you're, like, the way that you do this kind of testing is you just sit somebody in front of a keyboard with a built application and say, here, try to break it, raise your hand. Okay? All right, what about some sort of automated testing, like kind of what I'm showing off here, some sort of automatic movement of mouse and keyboard, those kinds of things? A few of those? Okay, please find me later. I'm just kind of curious how you're doing that. What about none at all? Like nobody, we just make our users find our bugs. Okay, yeah, that's all right. It's okay to be honest, and that's fine, right? I mean, that's certainly a way to do it, and I get it if you're a small company, that's sometimes the only way to do it, right? But this guy takes about 7 minutes to run, so this is kind of my timer. But again, it doesn't really matter what it's doing. Any tips or tricks from those who do, let's say, automate it? Like Tom, you raised your hand, and Jorg, I think you raised your hand. What do you guys usually do, and what do you use to do this with, just to enlighten us all? Tom, let's start with you, if you've got a second.
Yeah, so for like the JKI state machine, we have automated tests. We just wrap a Windows DLL to simulate mouse clicks and a bunch of VR scripting.
Okay. Jorg?
So we have 3 customers who do that. 2 are using commercial tools, and the third one is actually writing their own click tool, as they call it, with LabVIEW and the Windows DLL, actually like manually moving everything. We are trying to convince them to use a commercial tool. Renorex is the one that we used before. It's an Austrian company, actually. That's why, however, I chose it. And I can't remember the name of the second product, but it's also a commercial UI testing tool, automation.
Renorex?
Renorex.
Renorex, okay. Sorry, Eli, yeah, I wondered if NI does some of this.
The only tool I'm aware of that I've seen in the wild is actually Renorex. So it's not just Jorg. I've seen that one. It's been a few... It's been this perennial challenge, and we looked at a tighter interface with the Renorex. I'd be really curious to get an update on how that's working for you, though.
Okay, thank you. Others? I think I saw a couple of hands on this side of the room. Yeah, Hunter, what do you guys?
I'm just curious if you're using just dead reckoning kind of pixel clicks and assuming everything's going to be in the right spot, and really just talking about the trade-off in keeping the test working versus it being a useful test, and if most of the time when it breaks just because someone moved a button, are you using static or are you doing some clever work to figure out where the buttons are?
No, it's a good question. As you can see, in most cases here, I'm not actually clicking the mouse to change a value, right? I'm actually changing something in the JSON that I feed it at the command line to say, hey, make my line purple this time. And spell, oh, by the way, spell purple all lowercase, spell it all uppercase, misspell it, and do I get things like that? So in this case, I've kind of avoided that problem, although that is on my radar of how do we do that. And There's a couple different ways to deal with that. Pi Auto GUI is a tool that we've used in a different context, but has some image recognition capabilities in it where you can say, find this image on my screen somewhere, and click relative to those coordinates where you found the thing. Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, I've played around with Pi Auto GUI and also with Auto IT. There is a toolkit from Soliton that people should check out. It's a SLL Drona. I've seen that. I've played with it. I haven't actually used it in production yet.
Okay. As this guy ends up, which again, it takes about 7 minutes to run, as this guy ends up, what you'll see, one of the things I'm doing here as well is I'm generating a PDF with I've got an ASCII doc. This is all essentially making a bunch of screenshots is what's happening in the time that you don't really see much going on. There's a screenshot happening. We're saving that off, and then we're building up a big PDF with this document. Because one of the things that we ran into was, like, how do I know that, let's say that was a purple line? How do I know that was a purple line? Would I write some vision code to say, yeah, that's purple, sure. Or is it easier just to sit down and look at a PDF and say, yep, that was purple, it's supposed to be purple. So what you'll see in the PDF is essentially a bunch of pages that are like, some of these tests I can grade and I can say passed or failed automatically, no doubt about it. I can say in the code that thing did what it was supposed to do. Others, I'm expecting someone to look at my big PDF with a whole bunch of screenshots in it and say, yep, that was a purple line, that was a red line, that had big squares, that had small squares, those kinds of things. And so I don't think we'll make it to where you can see the PDF, but come find me later and I'll show it to you, kind of what we're doing there. So I appreciate the help. Thank you guys. Hope you've enjoyed it. Come find me later if you want to talk about it more.